It's late. You're lying comfortably in bed, wrapped up gently in your favorite blanket. The room is dim, illuminated only by the soft, faint glow of the night lamp on the table beside you. The air around you feels still, heavy, and calm. As your eyes slowly grow accustomed to the darkness, you begin to relax deeper, feeling your heartbeat slow, your breathing soften, and your mind gently wander toward thoughts that hover on the edges of sleep. Yet, even as you drift closer to dreams, a subtle question drifts quietly into your mind. Have you been here before? This sensation, one we've all experienced at some point, is familiar, yet profoundly mysterious. You pause briefly, attempting to recall clearly, but the memory remains elusive. It's a feeling of recognition without recollection, a soft whisper in your mind, suggesting you've somehow lived this exact moment already, perhaps countless times before. This is the essence of already happened, the quiet yet deeply unsettling notion that the present has somehow already unfolded. It is as if life, with all its complexities, emotions, and choices, is spinning on a cosmic record player, endlessly looping around and around, repeating itself with infinite precision. Imagine yourself standing at the threshold of a room you've never seen, and yet you already know what awaits you inside. The furniture, the light cascading softly through curtains, the smell of books that line the walls. How is it possible that a moment, never consciously experienced before, is already nestled in the deepest corners of your memory? Philosophers, scientists, mystics, and dreamers have long wondered about this perplexing phenomenon, offering explanations both comforting and unsettling. But among these attempts, one voice stands uniquely bold, disturbingly provocative, yet strangely comforting. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher whose thoughts push us to face the depths of our existence head-on. Nietzsche introduced humanity to an idea known as the eternal recurrence, or eternal return, the concept that all events in the universe repeat endlessly, in precisely the same order, infinitely recurring across time. Everything you've experienced, every joy, every sorrow, every quiet moment of contemplation, is destined to recur without change. Every heartbeat, every breath, every subtle glance exchanged across a crowded room, every tear shed alone, will unfold precisely as it has before, not just once, but an infinite number of times. To Nietzsche, this wasn't merely an intriguing philosophical puzzle, nor just a hypothetical scenario. Instead, it was a powerful existential challenge, a call to look unflinchingly at your own life and ask yourself a courageous and uncomfortable question. If you knew your entire life, exactly as you've lived it up to this point, was going to repeat itself infinitely, would you be overwhelmed with joy, or filled with despair? As you lie quietly in your bed, allowing this idea to settle deeply within your mind, a gentle tension forms. The room feels quieter now, deeper, more intense in its calmness. Perhaps you find yourself gently wondering about your own existence. How would you respond to Nietzsche's existential challenge? Nietzsche called this idea the greatest weight, an existential burden placed gently on your shoulders, asking you to embrace the reality of infinite recurrence courageously. If every action, choice, and feeling returns infinitely, how might this transform the way you live right now? But before you begin to answer that, let's softly explore the contours of this profound thought experiment more deeply, slowly descending into layers of meaning hidden within the notion of recurrence itself. Allow yourself to drift gently into a deeper state of contemplation, comforted by the knowledge that, while profound and perhaps unsettling, this existential question can bring with it the ultimate peace, acceptance of life itself. As you remain in this peaceful stillness, perhaps you recall times in your life when events seemed strangely predetermined. Those quiet moments when chance meetings appeared too perfectly timed to be purely coincidental, or when your own life seemed to reflect patterns too intricate to be accidental. These glimpses of synchronicity, moments when life feels scripted or pre-written, can evoke a comforting sense of meaning, but they may also stir something unsettling within you. Is it possible, you might wonder softly, that you've genuinely experienced these events already, in some deep and mysterious way? Imagine for a moment the gentle turning of a giant cosmic wheel, infinitely large yet turning so slowly and smoothly it seems almost motionless. Picture the wheel's surface containing every moment of existence, every birth and every death, every act of kindness and cruelty, every success and failure you've ever known. And picture yourself gently gliding along the surface of that wheel, destined to experience each moment, each event, exactly as before, again and again, without end. Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence might feel strangely abstract, perhaps even intimidating at first. But gently allow yourself to see it from another perspective. What if this endlessly repeated existence provided the most comforting certainty imaginable? The knowledge that every detail of your life, both the joyful and painful, is infinitely significant. That nothing you've done, no matter how seemingly trivial or fleeting, ever fades into nothingness. Instead, every moment holds eternal value precisely because it is endlessly relived. The philosopher Nietzsche saw in this repetitive infinity both the height of despair and the potential for ultimate affirmation of life. He believed embracing the eternal recurrence was not merely about accepting repetition but about genuinely loving one's life as it is. He famously called this love, Amor Fati, the love of fate itself. Amor Fati encourages us to say yes to every moment, every event, without wishing to change or escape it, knowing fully that this acceptance will echo infinitely across eternity. Think about this gently. If you knew with absolute certainty that your life would recur infinitely, would you approach it differently? Would you seek to alter how you treat others, how you embrace joy, how you face sorrow? Nietzsche's unsettling yet comforting insight pushes us into deeper reflections, encouraging us to ponder whether our daily actions reflect the kind of existence we joyfully live over and over, or whether they reflect a subtle but persistent desire to escape from our reality. As you remain comfortably nestled in your bed, consider a gentle analogy, a beautifully written song that you deeply love. Each time you hear it, the song remains exactly the same, every note, every word, every harmony identical. Yet, each repetition enriches your experience, deepening your appreciation and connection with its meaning. Rather than becoming tedious, the familiar notes become comforting and meaningful precisely because of their unchanging nature. In Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, life itself becomes that familiar melody, each repetition deepening its meaning, magnifying its significance. Yet, unlike a comforting song, life contains moments of sorrow, regret, pain, and loss. Nietzsche recognized this deeply human difficulty and gently challenged us further. Could you come to accept, and perhaps even embrace, these darker, more troubling aspects of your life, knowing they, too, would recur infinitely? Could you find peace in the idea that even your most difficult experiences serve an eternal purpose, their meaning stretching infinitely into the cosmic distance? As you consider this, allow yourself to gently float deeper into relaxation, softening your resistance to these unsettling thoughts. Recognize that embracing eternal recurrence doesn't require you to immediately love or celebrate every painful experience. Instead, it invites you to softly acknowledge their significance, to see them as essential threads woven into the intricate tapestry of your existence. Your breathing grows slower, deeper, more rhythmic, as your mind continues this comforting exploration. Perhaps, in this tranquil moment, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence seems less like an infinite nightmare and more like a powerful yet calming meditation on life's ultimate meaning. It offers you the opportunity to profoundly accept yourself, to honor every aspect of your existence, and to gently welcome the infinite repetition of your unique life. In many ways, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence can be viewed as the ultimate philosophical mirror. When you peer gently into it, what you see reflected back is not simply your present self, but the endless repetition of your being, echoing infinitely through time. This image offers an insightful yet disconcerting clarity. It compels you to see the whole truth of who you are, including the parts you may prefer to hide. And yet, this mirror also holds a profound comfort, because it shows you that no aspect of your existence is insignificant or temporary. Every piece of you has eternal weight and infinite meaning. Quietly reflect for a moment on your own experiences. Have you ever faced challenges that, at the time, felt unbearable or impossible to overcome, yet later recognized these trials as necessary for your growth? Nietzsche's eternal recurrence gently suggests that, within infinite repetition, each challenge, each struggle, each moment of doubt is an eternally meaningful opportunity. You aren't merely living through trials, you are crafting an eternal narrative, one repeated endlessly, confirming your strength and resilience forever. As you consider this idea, your breathing remains soft, rhythmic, and peaceful. Your thoughts might gently turn to love, friendship, family, moments of joy and laughter. Eternal recurrence means that these experiences, too, remain forever, eternally reaffirming the significance of your happiness. Nietzsche offers you a soothing reminder that your happiest moments are never lost to time. They live forever, cycling endlessly, a comfortingly infinite echo. Yet, as we softly journey deeper into Nietzsche's concept, we must also acknowledge its profound paradox. If our lives endlessly recur, are we condemned to repeat mistakes forever, unable to learn, unable to evolve or change our destinies? The gentle paradox hidden here is both unsettling and fascinating. Nietzsche doesn't offer eternal recurrence as a theory of comfort alone, but as an existential challenge, a call to live each moment as if it holds infinite significance. Even if you cannot change events across infinite cycles, knowing their eternal significance can inspire you to live consciously, courageously, and intentionally right now. Imagine yourself at the edge of an endless, calm ocean at sunset, waves softly lapping against your feet. Each wave repeats endlessly, gently flowing back to shore in precisely the same way. Yet the repetition itself doesn't strip away beauty, instead, it emphasizes it. Repetition brings tranquility, rhythm, peace. Nietzsche asks you to approach your life with the same quiet reverence, appreciating each moment precisely because you will revisit it infinitely. But the thought of repetition also raises an intriguing question. Is eternal recurrence merely theoretical, a symbolic metaphor for appreciating life, or could it represent something literally real about the universe itself? As you calmly lie there, enveloped in comfort, your thoughts softly wander into realms where science and philosophy gently intertwine. Scientists today explore ideas of multiverses, parallel worlds, and infinite cosmic cycles, suggesting Nietzsche's idea might hold subtle hints of scientific possibility. Physicists and cosmologists quietly theorize that the universe might cyclically expand and contract, repeating infinitely, with each cycle unfolding identically. Perhaps Nietzsche, intuitively or poetically, glimpsed a deeper truth about existence itself. Your mind floats gently through these calming, yet intellectually stimulating waters. Eternal recurrence might be comforting or unsettling, profound or paradoxical, but regardless, it invites you to peacefully acknowledge one undeniable truth. Your life, your experiences, your feelings matter infinitely, even if no cosmic observer watches your story unfold. Your life affirms itself simply by existing, each moment affirms itself by repeating endlessly. Gently allow this idea to settle into your mind, feeling a deep sense of calm acceptance. As you lie peacefully, enveloped by the warmth of your bedding, consider how Nietzsche's eternal recurrence might quietly transform your perception of daily life. Perhaps small irritations become insignificant against the backdrop of infinite repetition, losing their power to disturb your peace. Perhaps appreciation for loved ones, for simple moments of connection, quietly deepens, recognizing their eternal recurrence. Perhaps your choices become more intentional, more meaningful, knowing their resonance stretches infinitely into the future. As your relaxation gently deepens, remember that Nietzsche never intended eternal recurrence to be merely an abstract philosophical game. It was a sincere invitation, a personal challenge to you, right now, in this quiet moment of reflection, to choose affirmation of your existence precisely as it is. Amor Fati, the gentle acceptance of your life's fate, awaits your embrace. This philosophical invitation doesn't mean passively accepting hardship without growth. It means actively affirming and appreciating life's entirety, recognizing each moment's infinite beauty and importance. Now, as you continue drifting slowly toward a restful sleep, allow your mind to float gently in Nietzsche's infinite cosmic ocean. Know that, whether you fully accept the eternal recurrence or merely ponder it softly as an intriguing thought experiment, the concept has served its profound purpose, gently reminding you of the infinite value hidden within every fleeting moment. Tonight, you have softly confronted existential questions, explored gently unsettling paradoxes, and perhaps discovered unexpected comfort in the idea of infinite repetition. You've allowed Nietzsche's eternal recurrence to become more than a philosophical puzzle. It has become a calming meditation on your existence itself. As your breathing becomes deeper, slower, softer, feel at peace with your place within Nietzsche's infinite cycle. Let your mind drift calmly towards sleep, gently assured that whether or not recurrence is true, the comforting weight of this eternal perspective can inspire you to live each moment deliberately, lovingly, and courageously. As you continue resting comfortably, your mind floating gently between wakefulness and sleep, allow yourself to journey even deeper into the mysteries surrounding Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. Consider for a moment how you perceive time itself. Time flows effortlessly, invisibly, like a gentle river guiding you forward. But have you ever softly wondered if time truly moves in only one direction? Could it instead bend, loop, or circle back upon itself, endlessly returning to the same familiar places? Our modern understanding of time is deeply rooted in a linear perspective, time that progresses steadily from past, through the present, and onward into an unknown future. It feels natural and intuitive. We measure our days in clear, progressive increments, seconds, minutes, hours, and years, all pointing forward, endlessly marching onward. The past feels distant, unreachable, sealed away behind us, while the future remains uncertain, perpetually beyond our grasp. Our linear perception gives meaning and structure to our lives, guiding our ambitions, hopes, and dreams toward horizons yet unseen. Yet, if you look beyond the comforting familiarity of linear time, you will find that humanity's deeper history tells a very different story. Ancient civilizations around the world, cultures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, all perceived time quite differently. For many, time was cyclical rather than linear, It moved in endless, repeating circles, returning again and again to the same points, the same rhythms, the same cosmic truths. Imagine, if you will, gently drifting toward sleep while picturing a massive cosmic wheel slowly and gracefully turning. Each rotation marks a cycle of existence, a universe blossoming into life, thriving, and eventually fading quietly back into nothingness, only to repeat the process infinitely, perfectly, eternally. In such a worldview, no event is truly unique or new. Every action, emotion, and moment is destined to be experienced endlessly, recurring forever. Ancient Hindu philosophy illustrates this vividly with the concept of Kalachakra, the wheel of time. According to these teachings, existence itself moves in vast cycles, or yugas, each lasting countless eons. Humanity and the cosmos continually move through distinct ages, periods of awakening, prosperity, decline, and eventual renewal. Life is never static or linear, but dynamic, rhythmic, cyclical, forever returning to its origin. Similarly, ancient Greek thought embraced cycles, often symbolized by the mythical serpent, Ouroboros, depicted eternally swallowing its own tail. This symbolizes infinity and eternal recurrence, suggesting that endings inevitably merge with beginnings. For the Greeks, the universe's structure itself hinted at this cyclical truth, marked by rhythmic repetitions of birth, decay, destruction, and rebirth, an endless dance between chaos and harmony. As you softly reflect on these ancient perspectives, a comforting yet intriguing question arises. What might have drawn these diverse cultures, separated by distance and time, to perceive existence in such strikingly similar cyclical terms? Could their intuitions have quietly touched upon some deeper cosmic truth? A truth we've since forgotten, buried beneath modern, linear assumptions about reality. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, though presented as a profound philosophical insight, thus connects quietly and deeply to ancient human wisdom. In embracing recurrence, Nietzsche sought to gently reintroduce humanity to an older, richer understanding of time, one that challenges the idea of linear progression and offers instead an eternal cycle, repeated infinitely. To further appreciate the comforting yet unsettling implications of cyclical time, consider gently how our contemporary linear perception impacts our daily lives. Under linear time, each moment becomes fleeting, irretrievable, vanishing swiftly into the past. This can subtly fill our existence with an underlying sense of urgency, of loss, as we struggle to hold tightly onto meaningful moments before they inevitably slip through our fingers. The linear progression of time quietly pressures us to chase the future, constantly seeking new experiences, achievements, or validations, often missing the beauty and depth inherent in each present moment. But imagine for a moment that the relentless forward flow of time gently slows and bends back upon itself. Imagine life as a comforting series of repeated moments, each instance quietly echoing through infinity. In this cyclic perspective, life might feel less urgent, less fleeting, more eternal and substantial. Rather than rushing toward a constantly elusive future, we'd find ourselves peacefully embracing each moment as complete in itself, infinitely repeated, forever available to us. This cyclical view encourages presence, patience, and acceptance, transforming life from a race toward an uncertain future into a gentle and meaningful dance within the eternal now. Picture yourself, for a moment, gazing quietly at a starry night sky, infinite constellations twinkling gently above. Beneath this vast, cosmic vista, you softly wonder if civilizations before ours also pondered these same timeless questions. Were their answers, their hopes, their fears identical to ours, recurring eternally? Are we simply rediscovering, eternally, insights already found long ago and yet lost again to time? The profound paradox embedded within eternal recurrence is its dual nature. On one hand, it deeply comforts us by giving eternal significance to each moment. On the other hand, it subtly disturbs us by seemingly removing possibility and freedom, imprisoning humanity within an unbreakable cycle. Nietzsche, however, gently insists this tension isn't a weakness, but a powerful existential tool, one that invites us to live intentionally, mindfully, and joyfully in the present. In modern scientific discourse, cyclical time is quietly resurfacing in intriguing new ways. Cosmologists, for instance, explore models suggesting our universe may exist within an endlessly repeating cycle, expanding, contracting, collapsing, and re-emerging infinitely. Known as the cyclic model, or oscillating universe, These theories align intriguingly with Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. In this softly rhythmic cosmic scenario, our universe's ultimate destiny might not be linear extinction, but rather eternal regeneration, a comforting yet provocative notion. Such cosmic models propose that each universe, each cycle, emerges identical in structure yet disconnected from the awareness of previous cycles. We may have had this very conversation, pondered these very thoughts, countless times before, each cycle identical, each one brand new, endlessly recurring yet perpetually fresh. As your mind gently floats between philosophy and cosmology, ancient wisdom and modern science, softly consider how comforting, and profoundly beautiful, it might be to know that existence endlessly renews itself. Each ending becomes a new beginning, each collapse births a fresh cosmos. This infinite renewal quietly suggests a universe that is never truly finished or exhausted, but forever brimming with life, possibilities, and meaning. Yet the cyclical concept of time also quietly invites a deeper emotional challenge. If our lives and the universe eternally recur, is genuine progress, personal or collective, possible? Are we destined, gently but inevitably, to repeat mistakes, struggles, and tragedies forever? Nietzsche confronts us gently but directly with this paradox, forcing us to softly question our notions of progress, meaning, and fulfillment. Perhaps progress isn't linear advancement but lies instead in the conscious, deliberate affirmation of each moment within this infinite recurrence. Allow yourself now to gently consider the deeper human implications of these two contrasting views, linear versus cyclical, of time. Linear time quietly assures us that each generation stands uniquely positioned to learn from previous mistakes, moving steadily forward toward improvement and innovation. Within this perspective, progress is assumed, with each era softly guiding humanity toward higher understanding, greater technological mastery, and perhaps even moral or spiritual evolution. We measure our collective progress by how far we've advanced from our past, celebrating breakthroughs as steps upward on a comforting yet imaginary ladder toward perfection. But Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence softly challenges this assumption. It invites us instead to see existence not as a linear journey toward a distant ideal, but as a continuous, rhythmic return, a graceful and profound dance in which each generation, each individual, participates equally. Within this cyclical perspective, progress isn't defined as moving beyond the past, but rather as fully inhabiting and affirming each eternally recurring moment. Rather than striving anxiously toward an uncertain future, the cyclic view gently encourages us to deeply appreciate life exactly as it is, complete, meaningful, and infinitely significant. Picture yourself, for a moment, gazing quietly at a starry night sky, infinite constellations twinkling gently above. Beneath this vast, cosmic vista, you softly wonder if civilizations before ours also pondered these same timeless questions. Were their answers, their hopes, their fears identical to ours, recurring eternally? Are we simply rediscovering, eternally, insights already found long ago and yet lost again to time? The profound paradox embedded within eternal recurrence is its dual nature. On one hand, it deeply comforts us by giving eternal significance to each moment. On the other hand, it subtly disturbs us by seemingly removing possibility and freedom, imprisoning humanity within an unbreakable cycle. Nietzsche, however, gently insists this tension isn't a weakness, but a powerful existential tool, one that invites us to live intentionally, mindfully, and joyfully in the present. In modern scientific discourse, cyclical time is quietly resurfacing in intriguing new ways. Cosmologists, for instance, explore models suggesting our universe may exist within an endlessly repeating cycle, expanding, contracting, collapsing, and re-emerging infinitely. Known as the cyclic model, or oscillating universe, these theories align intriguingly with Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. In this softly rhythmic cosmic scenario, our universe's ultimate destiny might not be linear extinction, but rather eternal regeneration, a comforting yet provocative notion. Such cosmic models propose that each universe, each cycle, emerges identical in structure yet disconnected from the awareness of previous cycles. We may have had this very conversation, pondered these very thoughts, countless times before, each cycle identical, each one brand new, endlessly recurring yet perpetually fresh. As your mind gently floats between philosophy and cosmology, ancient wisdom and modern science, softly consider how comforting, and profoundly beautiful, it might be to know that existence endlessly renews itself. Each ending becomes a new beginning, each collapse births a fresh cosmos. This infinite renewal quietly suggests a universe that is never truly finished or exhausted, but forever brimming with life, possibilities, and meaning. Yet the cyclical concept of time also quietly invites a deeper emotional challenge. If our lives and the universe eternally recur, is genuine progress, personal or collective, possible? Are we destined, gently but inevitably, to repeat mistakes, struggles, and tragedies forever? Nietzsche confronts us gently but directly with this paradox, forcing us to softly question our notions of progress, meaning, and fulfillment. Perhaps progress isn't linear advancement but lies instead in the conscious, deliberate affirmation of each moment within this infinite recurrence. Allow yourself now to gently consider the deeper human implications of these two contrasting views, linear versus cyclical, of time. Linear time quietly assures us that each generation stands uniquely positioned to learn from previous mistakes, moving steadily forward toward improvement and innovation. Within this perspective, progress is assumed, with each era softly guiding humanity toward higher understanding, greater technological mastery, and perhaps even moral or spiritual evolution. We measure our collective progress by how far we've advanced from our past, celebrating breakthroughs as steps upward on a comforting yet imaginary ladder toward perfection. But Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence softly challenges this assumption. It invites us instead to see existence not as a linear journey toward a distant ideal, but as a continuous, rhythmic return, a graceful and profound dance in which each generation, each individual, participates equally. Within this cyclical perspective, progress isn't defined as moving beyond the past, but rather as fully inhabiting and affirming each eternally recurring moment. Rather than striving anxiously toward an uncertain future, the cyclic view gently encourages us to deeply appreciate life exactly as it is, complete, meaningful, and infinitely significant. Imagine now a quiet village nestled within a valley, untouched by the frenetic rush of modernity. For generations, life here has unfolded gently, peacefully, according to timeless rhythms and traditions. Seasons come and go in endless cycles, each season returning precisely as it always has. Here, existence doesn't move toward something new but softly flows through familiar cycles, each year bringing the comfort and reassurance of predictability. Far from being monotonous, this cyclic existence offers a profound depth of meaning and contentment, connecting villagers to each other, to nature, and to the eternal patterns of existence itself. Could this gently cyclical perspective hold valuable insights for our contemporary lives? Perhaps, quietly beneath our modern anxieties and restlessness, we yearn subtly for this comforting rhythm, for lives grounded not in continual striving and change but in gentle repetition and recognition. Perhaps Nietzsche's eternal recurrence gently whispers to us that true fulfillment and peace may come from acceptance, repetition, and the mindful embrace of our eternal, recurring reality. Yet, despite its comforting depth, cyclical time can softly evoke discomfort, especially for those raised in modern linear thinking. To accept infinite recurrence means gently surrendering the hope that humanity might someday transcend suffering, violence, and injustice. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence requires us to softly accept reality exactly as it is, including its pain, sorrow, and seemingly unresolvable tragedies. While this acceptance can indeed lead to profound inner peace, it also asks us to give up deeply cherished dreams of linear progress toward utopia or perfection. Does embracing cyclical time therefore mean surrendering hope or aspirations for a better future? Nietzsche gently counters this concern with subtle wisdom. Perhaps genuine improvement is found not in escaping pain or sorrow but in affirming and transforming our relationship to these realities. By softly accepting eternal recurrence, we learn to view difficulties not as problems to eliminate, but as opportunities for deeper growth, meaning, and wisdom, infinitely significant precisely because they recur eternally. In recent scientific explorations, such as quantum theories and advanced cosmological models, we see intriguing echoes of cyclical time. Some physicists quietly speculate about the Big Bounce, a cosmic event suggesting our universe emerges from the remnants of previous universes, endlessly cycling between collapse and rebirth. While science explores cyclic models primarily through mathematics and observation, philosophy gently grounds these theories in human experience, helping us emotionally and existentially connect to concepts otherwise abstract or distant. Now imagine yourself again lying peacefully beneath a vast, starlit sky, your thoughts gently drifting toward these profound connections between science and philosophy, ancient wisdom and modern insight. Allow yourself to softly embrace the comforting mystery surrounding existence itself, one that quietly refuses simple answers, instead inviting deeper questions, deeper acceptance, deeper peace. Whether time moves gently in linear progression or beautifully eternal cycles, Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence subtly reminds us of life's infinite depth, complexity, and meaning. Perhaps the deepest wisdom lies not in knowing definitively how time operates, but in softly embracing the profound uncertainty, calmly accepting both possibility and mystery. Our purpose may not be to grasp a definitive answer, but to peacefully inhabit the question itself, allowing this quiet uncertainty to fill our lives with infinite richness. As you continue relaxing deeply, your mind gently floating between contemplation and sleep, quietly recognize how this exploration of cyclical and linear time connects directly to your own existence. Whether or not eternal recurrence literally describes the structure of reality, Nietzsche's idea softly invites you to profoundly affirm each moment, giving it eternal significance through your awareness and appreciation. Perhaps life's deepest meaning is found not by pursuing a distant future or clinging to the vanished past, but by mindfully embracing each infinitely meaningful present moment. With these comforting insights in mind, allow yourself now to drift quietly toward deeper relaxation, gently feeling at peace with these profound reflections on time, existence, and eternal recurrence. Know that each moment you've experienced, including this quiet contemplation, possesses infinite meaning and eternal resonance, gently echoing across endless cycles of existence. As you continue to lie peacefully, drifting deeper into relaxation, your mind gently circles back to Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, softly touching upon another profound and intriguing layer of meaning: its relationship with free will. This idea, quietly powerful yet paradoxically unsettling, asks whether genuine freedom truly exists if we are eternally destined to repeat the exact same events. At first glance, eternal recurrence appears to gently challenge one of humanity's most cherished beliefs: the comforting notion that we are free, autonomous agents, capable of shaping our own destinies. Picture yourself standing at a crossroads, two distinct paths quietly stretching out before you. You pause gently, feeling a comforting sense of control and possibility, aware that you have the freedom to choose whichever road you wish to follow. But what if, softly hidden beneath the comforting illusion of choice, lies a deeper truth, that you've already walked this path, chosen precisely this way countless times before, always selecting exactly as you have, eternally destined to repeat the same decision infinitely? This subtle paradox quietly invites profound contemplation. If every action, every decision, every thought recurs eternally, does that mean each choice you make has already been predetermined, decided an infinite number of times previously? And if your life is perfectly repeated again and again, can you genuinely call any choice your own? Nietzsche, gently and yet boldly, challenges us to confront precisely these uncomfortable yet vital questions. While initially unsettling, the philosopher proposes that true existential comfort emerges not from the illusion of freedom but from accepting the reality of our existence exactly as it is, predetermined or not. For Nietzsche, the soothing paradox of eternal recurrence lies precisely in its challenge to our assumptions about freedom. He invites us to gently accept and affirm every choice, not because it's freely made but precisely because it recurs infinitely, becoming eternal through repetition. Yet, let's softly explore this paradox further. What exactly does Nietzsche mean when he suggests our actions and choices eternally recur? Is he implying that our futures are already fixed, that no matter how hard we struggle to create meaningful change, we're destined to repeat our mistakes, successes, loves, and losses without variation? To softly address this, imagine a gently flowing river winding peacefully through a valley. On the surface, the river appears free, unpredictable, able to move where it wishes. Yet beneath the surface, its path is quietly shaped and constrained by the landscape it moves through, repeating predictable patterns, carving familiar channels through repetition. Like this river, Nietzsche gently suggests, our lives, though appearing free on the surface, flow within deeply ingrained patterns, shaped by our histories, personalities, and circumstances, quietly repeating familiar choices and actions again and again. As you calmly consider this metaphor, your thoughts might softly drift toward your own habits, routines, and daily rituals. Consider gently how often you choose the same path, the same responses, the same actions, often without consciously deciding at all. Does this repetition reflect a lack of freedom, or is there something deeply comforting about these familiar patterns? Could true freedom, paradoxically, involve gently accepting these recurring patterns, affirming your life precisely as you've lived it? Nietzsche gently guides us to re-examine our traditional views of freedom. Rather than seeing free will as limitless possibility, an open, uncharted horizon awaiting infinite decisions, perhaps freedom could mean lovingly affirming your life exactly as it is, including its patterns and repetitions. Rather than feeling trapped by eternal recurrence, could we find comfort in the profound acceptance that our lives hold infinite significance precisely because they are eternally recurring? To softly illustrate this further, consider your daily routines. You wake gently each morning, perhaps making coffee in precisely the same comforting way, savoring the familiar aroma and warmth each time. You follow routines that quietly repeat day after day, driving familiar routes, greeting familiar faces, returning to the gentle sanctuary of your home each evening. These subtle repetitions don't necessarily diminish the meaning or value of your life. Rather, they often enhance it, offering quiet reassurance and peace. Nietzsche gently suggests that eternal recurrence mirrors these comforting daily rhythms on a cosmic scale. Perhaps, rather than diminishing freedom, eternal recurrence softly reveals a deeper, subtler form of freedom, one grounded not in limitless possibilities but in deep affirmation and acceptance of the eternally repeating present. Yet, understandably, this acceptance may initially seem challenging, even unsettling. Many find comfort in believing their choices genuinely shape the future. The concept of free will underlies much of our sense of identity, responsibility, and purpose. We comfort ourselves softly with the belief that our choices matter because we make them freely. To lose this sense of freedom, to embrace the gentle idea that everything recurs identically, infinitely, can feel at first like an existential loss, a surrender of meaning. Nietzsche, however, softly encourages us to see this apparent loss as something profoundly liberating instead. When you gently release the comforting illusion of limitless freedom, you simultaneously release the anxieties, regrets, and pressures often accompanying it. The burden of worrying endlessly about correct decisions fades softly away, replaced instead by a comforting clarity, the awareness that your life, precisely as you've lived it, possesses infinite value and infinite significance. Imagine, softly and gently, that your life story has been beautifully and carefully written, exactly as it is, to be read again and again. Each moment, each event, perfectly and eternally fixed, carefully chosen, holds infinite value precisely because it cannot be otherwise. Nietzsche gently invites you to read your life story with loving acceptance, affirming every line, every moment, without regret or longing for it to be otherwise. In this gentle acceptance lies a profound yet paradoxical freedom, a freedom grounded not in escaping the past, but in lovingly embracing it as eternally meaningful and infinitely significant. But perhaps you softly wonder, if eternal recurrence removes the possibility of genuine change or evolution, what purpose does choice serve at all? Does accepting recurrence mean resigning oneself passively to fate? Nietzsche softly answers this by guiding us to rethink our understanding of action and change. Perhaps genuine change isn't found in altering external events but in transforming our inner relationship to them. Even if events eternally recur exactly, your internal response, your emotional acceptance, interpretation, and affirmation of those events may quietly evolve profoundly. Eternal recurrence becomes an invitation to gently and intentionally reshape your inner experience, transforming perceived traps into comforting affirmations of your existence. Quietly consider a memory, perhaps one initially viewed as negative or painful. With time, reflection, and gentle contemplation, you might find your perception of that memory shift subtly. You begin to recognize hidden value or meaning previously unseen, transforming what once felt like a burden into a comforting, insightful experience. In Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, this internal transformation holds infinite significance precisely because your relationship to that memory, how you choose internally to embrace it, can eternally recur as well. Thus, eternal recurrence quietly illuminates a comforting paradox. Even without changing external circumstances, infinite inner freedom remains. You retain, always, the gentle freedom to lovingly affirm your experiences, to find new meaning in each infinitely recurring event. This freedom, the freedom of inner affirmation, softly transcends traditional notions of free will, offering instead a profound existential liberation accessible to anyone, at any moment. This inner freedom Nietzsche proposes is subtle yet profoundly powerful. It quietly liberates you from anxiety about an uncertain future and regret over an unchangeable past. Instead, it gently places your awareness into the present moment, asking you softly but insistently, can you lovingly affirm this moment exactly as it is, knowing that it will recur infinitely? Could you choose eternal joy, eternal peace, eternal acceptance in precisely this instant? To further illustrate this comforting yet challenging concept, imagine softly viewing your life as an exquisite work of art. Each moment is like a delicate brushstroke, carefully placed and eternally fixed, combining to form the infinitely repeating masterpiece of your existence. You cannot remove a single stroke without altering the integrity of the whole. Each moment contributes indispensably to the beauty and depth of your life's portrait. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence gently asks whether you can lovingly affirm every stroke, every moment, exactly as it is, including those that initially seem misplaced or uncomfortable. Can you softly recognize the infinite significance hidden in each moment, affirming it precisely because it eternally recurs? Viewed in this way, eternal recurrence gently transforms our relationship to freedom itself. Rather than measuring freedom solely by our ability to change external circumstances, Nietzsche encourages us to softly consider freedom as internal acceptance and affirmation. True freedom, in his view, lies in the gentle, courageous decision to fully accept the entirety of our existence, not selectively, but completely, infinitely, eternally. Freedom becomes a comforting act of profound inner affirmation, rather than simply external choice or control. Yet even as we softly embrace this comforting possibility, an underlying paradox remains gently present. The eternal recurrence subtly questions whether genuine responsibility exists if our actions recur infinitely without alteration. If our lives endlessly repeat precisely as before, does morality or accountability hold meaning? Nietzsche gently and provocatively confronts this paradox head-on, inviting us to reconsider deeply our notions of morality and personal responsibility. Rather than making morality irrelevant, eternal recurrence quietly intensifies its importance. Precisely because each action, each choice, repeats infinitely, every moment carries infinite moral significance. Nietzsche softly suggests that the weight of eternal repetition profoundly deepens moral awareness, elevating each choice into infinite importance. Eternal recurrence gently becomes a powerful ethical guide, not by promising reward or punishment, but by giving infinite significance to every decision. It quietly challenges you to act in a way you'd willingly affirm infinitely, profoundly deepening your responsibility and moral awareness. As your thoughts gently float deeper into contemplation, consider a moment from your own life, perhaps a small act of kindness, a gesture of forgiveness, or a moment of genuine honesty. Imagine gently that this moment, precisely as you experienced it, recurs infinitely. How does knowing its eternal repetition quietly affect your perception of its significance? Might it softly inspire you toward greater kindness, compassion, and authenticity, knowing each gentle act repeats eternally? Conversely, gently imagine a moment of regret, a time when your choices caused pain or sorrow. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence softly asks whether you could lovingly affirm even these painful actions. At first glance, this gentle challenge may seem impossible, yet Nietzsche quietly suggests this profound acceptance is not passive resignation or moral indifference, but a courageous acknowledgement of human imperfection and vulnerability. By accepting even these difficult moments, you softly embrace your humanity fully, learning humility, compassion, and wisdom through infinite repetition. This quiet acceptance does not excuse wrongdoing. Instead, it deeply transforms your inner relationship to mistakes. Rather than perpetually regretting or attempting to erase past errors, eternal recurrence gently encourages profound personal growth through accepting and affirming responsibility. Your freedom lies not in escaping the consequences of your actions, but in quietly transforming your relationship to those consequences, learning and evolving inwardly through gentle repetition and infinite reflection. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence gently provides a pathway toward authentic self-awareness and existential maturity. By softly confronting us with the infinite repetition of our lives, it challenges us to live consciously, intentionally, lovingly, and courageously right now. Each moment becomes infinitely significant precisely because it recurs infinitely, inviting us to act deliberately and authentically, fully aware of its eternal importance. As you gently drift further into relaxation, allow yourself to feel comforted by this profound existential insight. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence softly affirms your existence exactly as it is, reassuring you that every joy, sorrow, choice, and action holds infinite significance. Rather than constraining your freedom, eternal recurrence quietly deepens it, providing a comforting yet paradoxical sense of liberation and purpose. Your mind floats gently and peacefully through these subtle yet profound contemplations, quietly integrating Nietzsche's challenging ideas into your awareness. Let yourself softly embrace this existential paradox, finding within it a comforting sense of acceptance, authenticity, and peace. Imagine softly, for a moment, your favorite day, the most joyful, peaceful, and fulfilling day you've ever experienced. Perhaps it was a day spent with loved ones, feeling deeply connected, free, and happy. Perhaps it was a day filled with quiet solitude, reflection, and gentle contentment. Allow your mind to float gently toward this comforting memory, feeling its warmth and happiness softly enveloping you. Now, softly consider Nietzsche's eternal recurrence through this joyful lens. What if you could relive that day endlessly, exactly as it unfolded, infinitely experiencing those precious feelings of joy and fulfillment? The repetition, in this scenario, might seem like paradise, a comforting eternity where happiness is never fleeting, never lost, always available. Time becomes gently irrelevant, replaced instead by infinite emotional richness and perpetual serenity. Yet, softly and gradually, you might begin to sense something unsettling beneath this comforting scenario. As beautiful and comforting as repetition initially appears, there arises gently, almost imperceptibly, a subtle tension, a sense that infinite recurrence might eventually transform paradise into prison. Even the most joyful day, repeated endlessly without change or variation, may lose its magic, becoming predictable, monotonous, perhaps even subtly oppressive. The very qualities that initially brought comfort and happiness, predictability, familiarity, eternal availability, might gradually and gently diminish in value precisely because they recur infinitely. This quiet tension reveals a deep existential paradox inherent within Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. Infinite repetition simultaneously comforts us with stability, predictability, and familiarity, yet also subtly imprisons us within unchanging routines, habits, and moments. This gentle paradox softly invites us into deeper contemplation, asking whether true fulfillment requires novelty, surprise, change, or if genuine contentment lies precisely in the eternal recurrence of the familiar and beloved. Imagine softly yourself again, lying peacefully beneath a gentle, unchanging night sky, stars infinitely fixed in their familiar positions. Initially, the constellations comfort and reassure, their eternal stability quietly affirming your existence. But gradually, gently, you might find yourself wishing softly for change, for new stars, new patterns, something to refresh your senses, to renew your wonder, curiosity, and excitement. The infinite repetition that initially comforted now softly feels subtly restrictive, gently inviting you to long for variation and growth. Nietzsche softly acknowledges this paradox openly, bravely confronting its emotional and existential complexity. He invites you gently to consider that infinite repetition, while potentially limiting externally, might still offer profound internal possibilities for growth, transformation, and emotional depth. Perhaps paradise and prison aren't truly opposites, but gently complementary aspects of existence, each quietly necessary for a full, meaningful human experience. Consider now the gentle rhythms of nature, which quietly illustrate this profound paradox beautifully. The cycles of seasons softly repeat year after year, eternally returning. Spring gently giving way to summer, summer fading gracefully into autumn, autumn softly yielding to winter, and winter quietly awakening once again into spring. This comforting repetition offers predictability, stability, and a soothing sense of harmony. Yet within each recurring cycle, subtle variations occur. No two springs are exactly alike, no two winters precisely identical. Nature's eternal repetition is never monotonous, never truly static. Instead, it gently and constantly evolves, subtly transforming while quietly maintaining its eternal patterns. Could Nietzsche's eternal recurrence similarly possess this gentle yet subtle nuance? Perhaps the eternal recurrence isn't literally static, rigid repetition, but rather a profound invitation to experience the depth, beauty, and meaning hidden within subtle internal variations. Even if external circumstances recur identically, our inner responses, emotional landscapes, and perceptions softly evolve infinitely, each cycle enriching our understanding, deepening our appreciation, subtly transforming our relationship with eternally recurring moments. Yet Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, as he articulates it, is indeed strict. Every moment returns precisely and identically, without external variation. This strict repetition invites a deeper and more challenging reflection. Could true paradise exist precisely within the eternal, identical recurrence of every event? Could infinite repetition itself provide an ultimate sense of existential freedom and peace, even without external change? Imagine yourself gently walking along a peaceful shore, waves softly lapping repeatedly at your feet. The repetitive rhythm of the waves, eternally returning again and again, never feels oppressive or monotonous. Instead, it gently comforts, calms, and reassures. Perhaps infinite recurrence, similarly, need not be a prison. It could instead provide a profound existential rhythm, comforting us precisely because it repeats endlessly and reliably. Yet, the paradox remains subtly present. Even as you softly embrace repetition's gentle comfort, you might feel the quiet longing for novelty, change, growth, and fresh experiences. Perhaps the true beauty of existence resides gently within this subtle tension between familiarity and novelty, between comfort and longing, between eternal repetition and infinite possibility. Nietzsche himself recognized and quietly acknowledged this paradox. He invites us not necessarily to resolve it, but gently to accept and affirm the paradox itself, to recognize that true wisdom might lie precisely in holding these seemingly contradictory truths simultaneously. Infinite repetition need not be purely paradise or purely prison. It can softly embody both, enriching our existential experience precisely because of its complexity. Gently consider your own life, noticing how repetition quietly shapes and enriches your daily existence. Familiar habits and routines softly provide structure, predictability, and comfort, yet too much repetition might subtly limit your sense of growth, excitement, and adventure. Perhaps true existential wisdom involves gently balancing these forces, lovingly affirming the eternal repetition that grounds and comforts, while softly nurturing openness to internal transformation, emotional depth, and mindful engagement within that repetition. Nietzsche gently suggests that the comforting trap of eternal recurrence exists primarily within our minds. The external repetition of events, no matter how infinite, need not imprison us internally. True existential freedom lies softly within our internal capacity to lovingly affirm and engage meaningfully with every moment, each eternally significant precisely because of its infinite recurrence. Let's explore further into the tension that Nietzsche's eternal recurrence evokes, the simultaneous experience of freedom and confinement. At first glance, repetition might seem to imply constraint or limitation, a closed circle of existence where escape is impossible. This perspective naturally creates anxiety, as it contradicts the fundamental human desire for autonomy, novelty, and choice. Freedom, as commonly understood, is usually associated with limitless possibilities, the power to choose differently, or the ability to alter outcomes. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence confronts this directly by suggesting a world where every possibility is already fixed, endlessly repeating itself without alteration. But freedom, as Nietzsche understood it, is far more complex. Freedom doesn't necessarily mean an infinite range of choices or perpetual novelty. Instead, Nietzsche invites us to redefine freedom as a form of self-affirmation and existential authenticity. Freedom, in this deeper sense, is about embracing reality exactly as it is, loving your life, even if it repeats eternally. Consider freedom as an internal experience, a state of mind rooted in acceptance rather than avoidance, affirmation rather than perpetual dissatisfaction. True freedom, then, may not involve altering events externally, but rather transforming our internal relationship to those events. Consider again the metaphor of listening to your favorite piece of music. Its beauty arises not from constantly changing notes or unpredictability, but from the perfection of familiar melodies and harmonies. Each time you listen, you recognize its unchanging structure, but your appreciation deepens, evolves, and expands with repetition. You become intimately familiar with every note, every pause, every subtle shift in rhythm, and this familiarity enriches your experience rather than diminishing it. Infinite recurrence, viewed through this lens, resembles an endlessly repeated symphony, externally fixed but internally expansive, forever offering new depths of meaning and emotional resonance. At the same time, eternal recurrence inevitably presents existential challenges. Humans are inherently driven by curiosity, exploration, and the pursuit of novelty. We constantly seek new experiences, relationships, insights, and horizons, driven by the desire to break away from monotony. Nietzsche's idea asks us directly, could we willingly sacrifice novelty for eternal repetition? Can human nature find fulfillment in an eternally recurring world, or does repetition, no matter how meaningful, eventually lead to stagnation? Think of the experience of traveling. Journeys thrill us precisely because we encounter newness. The joy of exploration lies in discovery, in seeing something we've never witnessed before, tasting new flavors, hearing unfamiliar languages, encountering different perspectives. Infinite repetition, by definition, removes these novel experiences. Every journey would become predictable, every new acquaintance would become an eternally recurring familiarity. Here lies the core of Nietzsche's paradox. The same comforting repetition that provides existential grounding and peace might also limit humanity's fundamental desire for novelty, expansion, and discovery. Perhaps, however, Nietzsche intended precisely this discomfort. Maybe the eternal recurrence is a deliberate philosophical provocation, a mirror that challenges us to confront our deepest assumptions about what makes life meaningful. Do we find meaning primarily through novelty and exploration, or can meaning exist within perpetual repetition itself? Could the embrace of repetition become an act of profound existential courage, a radical affirmation of life precisely as it is, in all its familiar beauty and recurring imperfections? Nietzsche encourages us to answer this question personally and authentically. Rather than providing a definitive solution, his philosophy serves as a powerful existential exercise, inviting introspection and self-awareness. The acceptance of infinite repetition, Nietzsche suggests, requires immense bravery, an acknowledgement of life's inherent limitations and a courageous willingness to affirm them unconditionally. Ultimately, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence is an invitation to radically rethink how we find purpose in our lives. In modern society, purpose is often seen as something external, achievements to pursue, milestones to reach, and goals to fulfill. This constant pursuit implies a perpetual chase, a never-ending search for fulfillment that lies somewhere in an uncertain future. But Nietzsche challenges this assumption. By asking us to embrace infinite repetition, he proposes that true purpose might instead lie precisely in the act of fully inhabiting the present moment, valuing each instant as eternally meaningful, not because it leads somewhere else, but simply because it is. In a cyclical existence, the search for purpose shifts inward. Instead of seeking fulfillment in novelty or external achievements, the purpose becomes the radical affirmation of what already exists. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence suggests that the deepest meaning emerges from acceptance and appreciation of life's unchanging nature rather than the endless pursuit of change. It invites a profound existential peace born from recognizing that the deepest fulfillment comes from fully affirming the eternal present. However, this shift of perspective doesn't come without difficulty. For many, the very thought of infinite repetition creates anxiety. Human existence often feels defined by change, personal growth, emotional evolution, and social progress. To imagine being fixed within a repeating cycle may seem to erase the possibility of genuine growth. The desire to transcend limitations, evolve, and improve oneself appears inherently human. Nietzsche's thought experiment challenges this deeply held belief. It forces us to question whether genuine growth requires external novelty, or if meaningful growth can also occur internally, through shifts in our perceptions, interpretations, and emotional understanding. Perhaps Nietzsche's philosophy provides an important corrective to modern life's relentless pursuit of novelty. Today's world emphasizes constant movement, rapid innovation, and ceaseless change. Underlying this is a subtle, pervasive dissatisfaction, the belief that true happiness or meaning lies just beyond our reach, in some unexplored future. Eternal recurrence invites us instead to pause, reconsider, and revalue the present. It asks us to slow down and consider the possibility that meaning may reside not in escaping repetition but in embracing it wholeheartedly. Consider again the metaphor of breathing. Each breath is identical, inhale and exhale, repeating continuously from your first moment to your last. Yet, within this repetitive act, we never tire, never seek novelty. Instead, we find stability, calmness, and peace precisely because breathing repeats itself identically. Each breath offers subtle yet profound affirmation of life, a gentle reassurance that life continues, moment by moment, breath by breath. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence can be viewed similarly, each recurring moment, each repetition, affirming existence itself, endlessly reaffirming life's quiet beauty and eternal significance. In this sense, eternal recurrence offers a profound existential comfort rather than a restrictive prison. By embracing repetition as inherently valuable, we free ourselves from the constant anxiety of seeking novelty. Life no longer appears as a restless chase for fleeting satisfaction. Instead, it becomes a gentle rhythm, eternally meaningful precisely because it recurs endlessly. This shift in perspective allows us to relax into existence itself, trusting that purpose lies not in what is yet to come, but in what already is. As you gently drift closer to sleep, consider Nietzsche's eternal recurrence as both a philosophical challenge and a profound source of peace. Imagine accepting the infinite repetition of your life exactly as you've lived it, with all its joys, sorrows, triumphs, and setbacks. This acceptance isn't resignation, it's a profound, courageous embrace of existence, recognizing that genuine fulfillment comes from affirming every moment as infinitely valuable. Let this understanding softly fill you with calmness and inner peace. Allow yourself to relax deeply, knowing that every moment of your life possesses eternal significance precisely because it returns infinitely. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence reminds you that life, in all its complexity, is beautifully meaningful exactly as it is. Nietzsche proposed eternal recurrence as a deeply philosophical and existential concept, a thought experiment designed to provoke reflection about life, meaning, and existence. But intriguingly, recent advancements in physics, particularly quantum mechanics, have begun to echo Nietzsche's ancient insights, suggesting that eternity and repetition might indeed be fundamental to reality itself. Quantum mechanics is the science of the very small, an area of physics dealing with particles at atomic and subatomic scales. It is an elegant yet profoundly strange field, where reality behaves in ways that defy common sense and everyday intuition. Quantum physics reveals that, at the smallest scales, particles don't behave as we expect them to in our classical, everyday experience. Instead, they exist in states of potentiality, behaving both as particles and waves simultaneously. Observing these particles profoundly influences their behavior, an idea known as the observer effect, illustrating that reality itself is mysteriously dependent on observation and measurement. But what might quantum mechanics have to do with Nietzsche's eternal recurrence? At first glance, the connection seems elusive. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence imagines existence repeating infinitely, precisely, identically, while quantum mechanics seems inherently uncertain, probabilistic, and unpredictable. Yet deeper reflection reveals fascinating overlaps between Nietzsche's philosophical insights and quantum theories, suggesting the profound possibility of a scientific foundation for eternal recurrence. One intriguing bridge between quantum theory and eternal recurrence is the concept known as quantum immortality, derived from the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. The many worlds interpretation, first proposed by physicist Hugh Everett in 1957, suggests that every possible outcome of every quantum event actually happens, each outcome existing in its own separate parallel universe. Reality thus constantly branches into infinite parallel worlds, each reflecting different choices, events, and outcomes. In some universes, you might have made one choice. In another, a different choice, each universe unfolding independently, infinitely branching outward. Quantum immortality emerges as a thought experiment related to this many worlds theory. It proposes that conscious beings observing quantum events will always find themselves alive and conscious, since in any event where death could occur, consciousness simply continues in another branching universe where survival occurred. This startling concept suggests a form of personal eternity or immortality, not through traditional religious or spiritual beliefs, but through quantum mechanics itself. While quantum immortality differs in important ways from Nietzsche's precise, identical recurrence, both theories intriguingly suggest infinite repetition or infinite existence in some form. Nietzsche proposed a universe repeating identically, while quantum immortality suggests infinite branching, infinite variations, infinite versions of each of us existing in parallel realities. Both ideas, however, profoundly challenge our conventional understandings of existence, meaning, and mortality. As you softly reflect on these ideas, gently picture yourself standing at the center of a vast cosmic crossroads, each path representing a different universe, a different outcome, a different infinite version of your life. You exist simultaneously in infinite forms, each subtly different, each infinitely real. Is this comforting or unsettling? Does the concept of infinite selves, infinite outcomes, provide existential peace, or does it deepen the complexity of understanding who you truly are? Quantum immortality invites you to reconsider the nature of your own existence. If each decision, each moment, splits reality into infinite parallel universes, then your life is not a single, linear story, but rather a branching tree of infinite variations. In some universes, you have achieved your greatest dreams. In others, you face immense challenges or profound sorrows. Every possible reality quietly unfolds in its own infinite space, suggesting existence itself is endlessly expansive, eternally diverse. Yet, beneath this dizzying complexity lies a fascinating link back to Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. While quantum mechanics suggests infinite variety, Nietzsche envisioned infinite repetition. On the surface, these ideas seem fundamentally opposed. One emphasizes limitless diversity, the other infinite sameness. But both theories profoundly challenge our intuitive sense of self, time, and meaning. Both ideas confront us with infinity, a concept so vast, it stretches the mind to its limit, offering equal doses of existential wonder and existential dread. Modern physics also approaches the concept of eternal recurrence from another angle, through cosmological models of cyclic universes. Some physicists propose that our universe itself might cycle through infinite phases, each beginning with a big bang, expanding outward until eventually slowing, collapsing inward, and then starting again. Known as the Big Bounce, or cyclic cosmology, this theory suggests that the universe is reborn repeatedly, infinitely cycling through birth, expansion, death, and renewal. Imagine softly standing at the cosmic edge, quietly observing the universe itself gently breathing in and out. With each exhalation comes expansion, growth, and complexity. With each inhalation, collapse, silence, and return to a singular point. This rhythmic cosmic breath repeats infinitely, each cycle bringing universes remarkably similar, perhaps identical, to the last. Nietzsche's philosophical insight thus finds potential scientific grounding in modern cosmological theories, suggesting that eternal recurrence might not be mere philosophical speculation, but a genuine feature of physical reality. In both quantum mechanics and cosmology, infinity emerges as a central theme. Infinity, whether in the form of infinite universes, infinite repetitions, or infinite cycles, forces us to rethink the very meaning of existence. Traditional understandings of reality rely on finite boundaries, linear progress, beginnings, and ends. Infinity dismantles these boundaries, inviting us into a universe without edges, without endpoints, without definitive conclusions. Existence itself becomes boundless, timeless, endlessly recurring or endlessly branching, challenging our deepest assumptions about reality. Reflect again on quantum immortality. If consciousness eternally continues in parallel worlds, then mortality itself transforms profoundly. Death is no longer an ultimate endpoint, but merely a branching moment, directing consciousness into a different universe where life persists. Nietzsche similarly challenges the permanence of death through eternal recurrence. Your life never ends absolutely, because every moment, including death itself, returns infinitely, eternally repeating without genuine conclusion. These concepts encourage a profound reassessment of personal existence and meaning. When life's boundaries dissolve into infinity, does life itself become more meaningful or less? Does infinite continuation enrich existence by removing finality, or does it diminish life's preciousness by removing urgency and limitation? Consider softly again Nietzsche's own perspective. For him, the infinite recurrence of every moment meant infinite responsibility and infinite significance. Every decision, action, and thought carried eternal weight precisely because it repeats endlessly. Quantum mechanics and cosmology may offer different mechanisms, parallel worlds, cyclic universes, but the existential implication is strikingly similar. Both suggest infinite significance in every moment precisely because existence is infinite. Consider now how modern science has quietly revolutionized our understanding of existence. Historically, humanity viewed life as finite and linear, each individual living once, traveling a single, unidirectional path from birth toward death. Religion and philosophy offered various ways to transcend this linearity, heaven, reincarnation, or spiritual immortality, but the underlying assumption of linear progression remained largely intact. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence offered a radical alternative, proposing infinite repetition rather than linear transcendence. Similarly, quantum mechanics and cyclic cosmology present alternatives to traditional linear time, suggesting infinite possibilities, branching realities, and repeated cosmic cycles. The implications of these scientific theories extend far beyond physics alone, deeply influencing philosophy, psychology, and even everyday life. If the universe itself operates cyclically or branches infinitely, our traditional linear view of existence becomes inadequate. Purpose and meaning must be reconsidered within a context of infinite repetition or infinite variation. Rather than seeking fulfillment solely through linear progress or external achievements, we might instead find meaning through acceptance, awareness, and internal affirmation. Imagine for a moment how it would feel to truly internalize the concept of infinite parallel worlds or infinite cosmic cycles. How might it change your perception of your daily experiences, challenges, or relationships? If every choice branches infinitely or repeats eternally, would this encourage deeper presence and appreciation, or could it create existential confusion, uncertainty, or anxiety? Nietzsche himself grappled with similar existential questions when proposing eternal recurrence. His intent wasn't simply to provoke or unsettle, but to inspire profound reflection and personal growth. Similarly, quantum immortality and cyclic cosmology are not simply theoretical curiosities. They deeply challenge and expand our understanding of human existence. They encourage us to reconsider our deepest assumptions about life, meaning, and personal significance. Yet, the question naturally arises: how literally should we take these scientific theories? Are infinite parallel universes or cyclic cosmologies actual realities, supported by empirical evidence, or are they merely speculative ideas, fascinating yet ultimately unprovable? Science itself remains cautious. Theories like the many worlds interpretation and cyclic cosmology are actively debated within the scientific community. Some physicists embrace them enthusiastically, viewing them as elegant explanations of observed phenomena, while others remain skeptical, highlighting their speculative nature and lack of direct observational confirmation. Regardless of whether these scientific theories ultimately prove true or false, their philosophical implications remain deeply relevant. Both quantum mechanics and cyclic cosmology offer metaphors and analogies that profoundly enrich our existential understanding. Even if infinite parallel universes or cyclic cosmic repetitions turn out to be scientifically unsupported, their philosophical significance remains intact. They challenge us to think beyond traditional boundaries, inspiring deeper introspection and broader existential awareness. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence similarly operates on multiple levels simultaneously: literal, metaphorical, and existential. Whether or not existence literally repeats infinitely, the thought experiment itself profoundly influences how we perceive life. Eternal recurrence invites us to consider each moment infinitely meaningful, regardless of literal truth or falsehood. Quantum mechanics and cyclic cosmology similarly encourage broader perspectives, asking us to reconsider reality not merely through direct observation, but through profound philosophical reflection and existential contemplation. Consider once again the intersection between quantum immortality and Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. Both concepts, despite their differences, converge on a similar existential point: the infinite significance of existence itself. Quantum immortality emphasizes infinite branching possibilities, eternal recurrence emphasizes infinite repetition, yet both propose that life is infinitely meaningful, precisely because of this infinity. Rather than reducing life's value, infinity magnifies it, giving profound significance to each choice, action, and moment. By examining the intersections of science and philosophy, we uncover profound insights into our relationship with existence itself. Both quantum mechanics and Nietzsche's eternal recurrence push us to reconsider what it means to live meaningfully. In a finite, linear universe, meaning is often defined by the pursuit of specific achievements, goals, or endpoints, something to strive for, attain, or reach in the future. But in a universe defined by infinite recurrence or infinite possibilities, meaning shifts inward. It becomes about the depth and quality of our experiences rather than the external outcomes we pursue. Each moment becomes infinitely valuable, not because it leads somewhere else, but simply because it eternally recurs or branches infinitely, making its significance absolute and unending. This redefinition of meaning and purpose might initially seem unsettling, particularly in a culture obsessed with linear progress and external achievement. However, it also offers immense existential freedom. Instead of anxiously pursuing future outcomes or constantly worrying about choices made, we can instead embrace the eternal significance of the present moment. Life itself becomes profoundly meaningful in its immediate experience, eternally validated through infinite recurrence or branching. Consider again the metaphor of standing at a cosmic crossroads. Each path before you represent infinite potential outcomes, parallel universes branching endlessly into infinite possibilities. Similarly, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence places you in a scenario where you revisit every moment infinitely. In both cases, your existence possesses infinite depth, infinite significance, and infinite possibility. Far from diminishing life's meaning, infinity magnifies it immensely, providing existential depth and richness that linear, finite perspectives cannot fully capture. Yet, the philosophical and scientific exploration of infinity also exposes fundamental human vulnerabilities, fears of insignificance, irrelevance, or existential overwhelm. Confronted by infinity, some might feel paralyzed, anxious, or uncertain. How do we find purpose when faced with infinite possibilities or infinite repetition? How can we navigate existential anxiety when confronted with an endless universe devoid of finite closure? Nietzsche provides a powerful existential remedy through his concept of Amor Fati, the love of fate. Amor Fati invites us not merely to accept reality passively, but to affirm it actively, lovingly, and courageously, exactly as it unfolds. Embracing Amor Fati means fully loving every moment of existence, precisely because it occurs exactly as it does, without wishing it to be otherwise. Quantum mechanics and cyclic cosmology similarly invite us toward existential affirmation, embracing existence precisely because of its infinite depth, complexity, and mystery. Science and philosophy, despite their differences, converge profoundly on this point. Existence is infinitely richer, deeper, and more meaningful than traditional linear perspectives can fully express. Infinity itself, whether expressed through eternal recurrence, quantum mechanics, or cyclic cosmology, invites us into profound existential reflection. It challenges our assumptions, inspires personal growth, and expands our understanding of life, meaning, and existence. As you rest deeply, allow these profound insights to gently settle within your awareness. You may not resolve every paradox or answer every existential question, and that's perfectly okay. Sometimes, genuine wisdom lies in comfortably holding complexity, ambiguity, and paradox. Both quantum mechanics and Nietzsche's eternal recurrence remind us that true understanding arises not from eliminating mystery, but from courageously engaging with it. Rest comfortably now, knowing that your existence, whether eternally recurring or infinitely branching, possesses infinite significance. Allow yourself to drift peacefully, comforted by the deep understanding that your life, precisely as it is, holds eternal meaning within the infinite expanse of reality. If you had the chance, or perhaps the obligation, to relive your entire life exactly as it has unfolded, would you embrace this opportunity with joy, or shrink away in hesitation and fear? Consider this question slowly, thoughtfully. It's not merely philosophical speculation, it's profoundly intimate, an invitation to examine every facet of your life honestly and courageously. Nietzsche himself posed this as the ultimate existential challenge. He believed it was the most revealing way to assess one's relationship with life itself. Could you joyfully affirm the entirety of your existence, including every moment of joy and pain, success and failure, love and loss, if you knew it would repeat endlessly without change? Imagine standing quietly at the entrance to a vast theater. Inside, the story of your life is about to unfold from start to finish, exactly as you lived it, every event replayed precisely as it occurred. There is no possibility to rewrite scenes or edit experiences. You must sit and observe each moment, reliving it completely, exactly as it happened. Would you walk through the theater's doors willingly, excited to revisit the journey, or would you hesitate at the threshold, uncertain or afraid of facing it all again? Perhaps your initial reaction is mixed. Moments of happiness, love, and triumph naturally invite joyful anticipation. You would willingly relive times spent laughing with friends, the warmth of an embrace from a loved one, achievements you proudly recall. But what about those darker moments, the painful regrets, the missed opportunities, the decisions you wish you could reverse? How do you face the inevitability of reliving your sorrows, disappointments, and deepest struggles? Nietzsche's eternal recurrence demands that you confront precisely this complexity. You can't selectively relive only the pleasant moments. The recurrence includes everything. Every second of your life, whether joyful or agonizing, is eternally repeated. This profoundly challenging thought experiment requires a deep level of self-awareness, honesty, and courage. Yet, this challenge offers a powerful opportunity. Nietzsche suggested that if we could fully embrace the infinite recurrence of our lives, accepting every moment exactly as it occurred, we would achieve the deepest possible affirmation of existence, Amor Fati, the love of fate. Amor Fati invites you not merely to tolerate or passively accept your life, but to actively love every aspect of it, precisely because it is unchangeable, perfect in its imperfection, eternally significant in its infinite repetition. How might your perception of daily life shift if you fully embraced Amor Fati? Perhaps minor frustrations, regrets, or anxieties would lose some of their emotional weight. Knowing that every moment repeats infinitely might encourage a deeper sense of gratitude, mindfulness, and emotional clarity. Each decision, relationship, success, and struggle would become infinitely meaningful, not because it leads to a different outcome, but simply because it occurs exactly as it does, forever. This perspective may initially seem daunting, even overwhelming, yet Nietzsche believed it ultimately liberating. Affirming your life fully means releasing regret and resentment, shifting your focus away from what you wish had happened toward genuine acceptance of what has happened. Life's significance no longer depends on perfection or ideal outcomes, but resides precisely in embracing reality itself as infinitely valuable. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence also invites profound reflection about how you relate to memories, particularly difficult or painful ones. People often cope with challenging memories by avoiding them, suppressing them, or striving to forget. But in an eternally recurring life, avoidance becomes impossible. Every memory, every event, every relationship must be confronted directly and repeatedly. Rather than escaping the past, you're invited, perhaps even compelled, to face it openly, repeatedly, without reservation. But consider the potential hidden within this challenge. Revisiting difficult memories without the desire or ability to change them could lead to unexpected inner transformation. Facing painful moments honestly and repeatedly often provides new perspectives, deeper emotional insights, and eventually genuine acceptance. What initially seems overwhelming or distressing can gradually become manageable, meaningful, or even enriching precisely because you embrace it as eternally significant. Consider the analogy of revisiting an old photograph or listening repeatedly to a piece of music that once carried painful memories. Initially, the experience may be emotionally charged or unsettling, but with each revisit, your relationship to that memory gently shifts. Over time, emotional sharpness softens into thoughtful reflection. Acceptance gradually replaces resistance, offering greater emotional freedom and peace. Eternal recurrence amplifies this transformative process. By repeatedly confronting every moment of your life exactly as it occurred, you gain opportunities for profound emotional healing, reconciliation, and personal growth. Of course, eternal recurrence does not imply passivity or resignation. Nietzsche's philosophy emphasizes active engagement and affirmation rather than passive surrender. To embrace your life fully, knowing it repeats infinitely, involves courageous emotional honesty and deliberate internal work. It demands a conscious choice to find meaning and value in experiences exactly as they are, rather than in how you wish they might have been. Imagine yourself at the end of a journey, looking back over your entire path. Each experience, both joyful and difficult, shaped who you've become. Could you genuinely affirm every step of that journey, even the painful or challenging ones, if you knew you'd take exactly the same path again? Nietzsche believed true existential fulfillment comes from precisely this affirmation, fully embracing and loving your life exactly as it unfolds, without exception. Yet, Nietzsche acknowledged that this ultimate affirmation isn't easy. For many, the thought of eternal recurrence initially feels overwhelming or daunting. Accepting difficult experiences or painful memories repeatedly can feel like an emotional burden too heavy to bear. Nietzsche openly confronts this challenge, recognizing eternal recurrence as a profound existential test. The goal is not immediate, effortless acceptance but a lifelong process of inner growth, self-awareness, and gradual affirmation. Eternal recurrence doesn't require perfection or immediate enlightenment. Rather, it offers an ongoing opportunity, a continual invitation, to shift your relationship to life itself. Each revisit of your experiences offers another chance for deeper understanding, more compassionate acceptance, and profound emotional transformation. Nietzsche's concept thus becomes a philosophical tool for continual personal growth rather than a rigid demand for immediate acceptance. You might now begin to recognize how eternal recurrence transforms everyday existence into a deeply meaningful opportunity. Daily life ceases to be merely routine or mundane. Instead, each moment becomes infinitely significant, precisely because it repeats endlessly. Actions, choices, relationships, and emotions gain profound existential weight. Life itself becomes a meditation, an ongoing invitation to live consciously, intentionally, and lovingly. Even as you rest peacefully, allowing these ideas to sink deeper into your awareness, you might begin to sense subtle internal shifts in how you perceive your own experiences. Moments you previously saw as minor or trivial might begin to reveal unexpected depth and significance. Difficult memories or regrets might feel slightly lighter, knowing their recurrence offers continual opportunities for deeper understanding and acceptance. Consider how the perspective offered by eternal recurrence might shift your relationships with others. Human interactions, friendships, family connections, romantic partnerships, all are shaped by complex dynamics, a mixture of joy, love, frustration, and occasional conflict. Within an eternally recurring universe, each of these relationships becomes infinitely significant, repeated identically without alteration. Think of someone important in your life, perhaps a partner, a close friend, or a family member. Reflect on the moments you've shared, both joyful and challenging. Eternal recurrence asks, could you embrace each of these moments repeatedly, exactly as they unfolded? Would knowing that every conversation, disagreement, act of kindness, or misunderstanding will recur infinitely change how you approach relationships? Perhaps it would encourage greater compassion, forgiveness, patience, and empathy, recognizing that each interaction holds infinite weight. Nietzsche believed eternal recurrence profoundly deepened ethical awareness. Knowing your actions repeat infinitely might inspire heightened moral consciousness and intentionality. Each decision becomes eternally important, not because it impacts external outcomes differently, but precisely because it repeats endlessly. Would you speak differently, act more compassionately, love more fully, if every action recurred infinitely? While this idea might initially feel daunting, it also offers profound existential empowerment. Recognizing the infinite significance of every moment inspires you to live more consciously and deliberately, shaping your character and moral awareness profoundly. Rather than feeling trapped by repetition, you find genuine freedom in intentional, ethical living, aware that your actions reverberate infinitely across time. Yet, Nietzsche also acknowledged the human challenge inherent in embracing eternal recurrence fully. Most of us naturally resist revisiting painful moments repeatedly. Some experiences feel overwhelming enough the first time, let alone repeated endlessly. But eternal recurrence isn't simply about enduring difficulty, it's about deeply transforming your relationship with challenging experiences themselves. Consider again a difficult moment from your past, perhaps a painful loss, a significant mistake, or a regretful decision. Initially, imagining its infinite recurrence might feel unbearable. But Nietzsche believed genuine existential maturity arises precisely from facing such moments openly, repeatedly, without avoidance. Over time, confronting these difficulties repeatedly might shift your emotional perspective, gradually transforming regret and pain into deeper self-understanding, wisdom, and compassion. Eternal recurrence provides an opportunity, perhaps even a responsibility, to transform your relationship with your past. Rather than avoiding painful memories, you actively embrace them, recognizing each moment as infinitely meaningful precisely because it repeats endlessly. This profound emotional shift isn't immediate or easy, but it can deeply enrich your life and emotional resilience over time. Even joyful memories might feel complex when considered through the lens of eternal recurrence. Moments of happiness, deeply cherished, might become bittersweet if endlessly repeated without the possibility of variation or newness. Yet, perhaps joy itself takes on deeper significance precisely because of its infinite repetition. Each moment of happiness becomes infinitely precious, eternally validating the beauty and worthiness of life itself. This complexity highlights an essential insight within Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. Meaningfulness doesn't require perfection or permanent happiness. Instead, it arises precisely through embracing life's full range of experiences, joyful and painful alike. Each moment holds infinite significance because it forms part of your eternally repeating life, each experience eternally essential to the wholeness of your existence. This philosophical insight gently transforms your perception of daily living. Everyday moments, even seemingly mundane ones, quietly gain existential weight and depth. Ordinary interactions, familiar routines, subtle emotional experiences, all become infinitely meaningful precisely because they eternally recur, offering constant opportunities for deeper awareness and appreciation. As you reflect further, the existential insight provided by eternal recurrence begins to feel less intimidating and more liberating. Nietzsche offers not a rigid prescription for life, but a philosophical invitation to deeper self-awareness, compassionate acceptance, and mindful living. Eternal recurrence gently but persistently challenges you to live deliberately and meaningfully, embracing your existence precisely as it unfolds, moment by moment. As you further reflect on the implications of eternal recurrence, you might find your understanding of personal identity subtly shifting. Traditionally, identity is often viewed through a lens of linear progression. Your life story unfolds through experiences, relationships, and choices, each step building upon the last. You see yourself as constantly evolving, continually shaped by the past, but always moving forward towards something new or better. But Nietzsche's eternal recurrence presents a striking alternative vision of identity. Rather than defining yourself primarily through future possibilities or achievements, eternal recurrence emphasizes the timeless wholeness of your existence. Your identity is not something to be endlessly constructed or improved upon, but rather something to be fully and lovingly embraced as it is. Every aspect of your personality, every trait, every decision you've ever made becomes eternally significant precisely because it repeats infinitely. This view profoundly challenges modern notions of self-improvement or self-optimization. Rather than constantly striving to change yourself or alter your fundamental nature, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence invites you toward unconditional self-acceptance. It doesn't suggest passivity or resignation, but rather active and radical affirmation of who you are in every detail, strengths and weaknesses, virtues and flaws alike. Consider how liberating it might feel to truly internalize this level of self-acceptance. Much of life's anxiety arises from dissatisfaction with the self, regret over past decisions, insecurities about perceived flaws, pressure to continually improve. Eternal recurrence gently dissolves this anxiety by shifting focus from constant self-improvement toward unconditional self-embrace. Your value and significance no longer depend upon achieving an idealized version of yourself, but simply upon existing exactly as you are, eternally valuable in every moment. Yet, this unconditional acceptance doesn't imply complacency or lack of growth. Ironically, embracing eternal recurrence might actually inspire deeper personal development. Knowing that your current self recurs infinitely encourages intentional, deliberate self-awareness and authentic expression. You become deeply conscious of your thoughts, emotions, actions, and decisions, recognizing their eternal weight. Personal growth becomes less about externally driven goals and more about genuine inner evolution, deepening compassion, emotional resilience, wisdom, and authenticity. Imagine approaching your daily interactions and decisions with heightened awareness, knowing each moment repeats endlessly. Minor disagreements, fleeting frustrations, or transient joys become profound opportunities for meaningful engagement and emotional depth. Life itself becomes a continual meditation. Every moment invites conscious presence, intentional living, and compassionate acceptance. As you internalize Nietzsche's philosophy, daily existence gradually transforms into something deeply purposeful. Mundane tasks and routines gain existential significance. Ordinary conversations, familiar environments, and routine interactions quietly reveal hidden depths of meaning, precisely because you affirm them as eternally recurring. Life no longer requires dramatic events or external validation to hold significance. Its value lies simply in existing, moment by moment, infinitely meaningful in itself. In this way, eternal recurrence gently aligns with mindfulness traditions emphasizing presence, gratitude, and acceptance. Both philosophical perspectives encourage deeper engagement with the present moment, recognizing it as inherently valuable rather than simply a means toward future outcomes. Life is no longer a restless pursuit of future goals, but a gentle yet profound embrace of existence itself, moment by moment, infinitely repeated. You might find yourself feeling increasingly peaceful, reassured, and emotionally liberated as you reflect deeply on these ideas. Eternal recurrence, initially challenging or intimidating, gently transforms into a profound source of existential comfort and personal empowerment. You recognize your life, exactly as it is, holds infinite worthiness and eternal significance. Rest comfortably now, knowing every moment of your life holds infinite value precisely because it recurs eternally. Allow yourself to drift toward peaceful sleep, comforted by the deep existential insight that your existence, every choice, every experience, is infinitely meaningful, eternally embraced, forever significant in Nietzsche's vision of eternal recurrence. One of the deepest mysteries presented by Nietzsche's eternal recurrence is the question of meaning itself. On the surface, meaning often seems closely tied to progress, purpose, and direction. We usually believe life gains significance because it leads somewhere, it moves forward, guided by ambitions, goals, and aspirations. But if life is infinitely repeating, endlessly cycling back to the same points, does meaning diminish? Or could it possibly become richer, more profound? This question represents a paradox at the heart of eternal recurrence. How can life retain purpose and meaning when it's destined to repeat itself endlessly, without change or novelty? At first, the idea of infinite repetition might seem to erase meaning, stripping life of its sense of direction, purpose, and achievement. After all, if everything happens repeatedly without variation, what incentive remains to pursue goals or strive for growth? But Nietzsche saw things differently. He believed eternal recurrence didn't erase meaning, rather, it deepened it in a profound and unexpected way. By repeating infinitely, each moment, each experience, decision, emotion, becomes eternally significant. Nothing is lost, nothing forgotten, nothing fades away into insignificance. Every aspect of life holds infinite importance precisely because it repeats forever. Imagine attending a play you've watched countless times before. You know every line, every scene, every subtle shift of emotion and dialogue. Yet each performance deepens your connection to the characters, themes, and story. With each repetition, layers of meaning emerge that previously went unnoticed. The familiarity doesn't diminish the experience. Instead, it enriches your appreciation, allowing deeper emotional connections and fresh insights. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence encourages a similar perspective toward life itself. Each repetition isn't merely duplication, it's a reaffirmation of existence. Even without external novelty, internal meaning continuously evolves and deepens. Life's inherent value is constantly rediscovered, re-experienced, and reaffirmed through each infinite recurrence. This idea stands in stark contrast to modern assumptions about meaning. Contemporary culture often associates meaning primarily with new experiences, continual growth, and external achievements. There's a widespread belief that life becomes meaningful only by pursuing something new, by moving constantly toward future possibilities. Nietzsche challenges this notion directly. Eternal recurrence insists meaning isn't something to pursue externally or achieve later. It's something to uncover continually within each moment. Meaning isn't found in endless novelty, it lies within existence itself, precisely because each moment eternally repeats. At the same time, infinite repetition introduces genuine existential tension. Human beings naturally seek novelty, variety, and progression. Our curiosity and imagination drive us toward new experiences, deeper understandings, and continuous growth. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence presents a genuine emotional and psychological challenge. Can humanity truly embrace infinite repetition without eventually longing for change, novelty, or transcendence? This paradox is central to Nietzsche's philosophy. The human desire for meaning traditionally arises from our sense of direction, purpose, and forward movement. Eternal recurrence disrupts this entirely. It demands a radical shift in perspective, away from linear, externally defined meaning toward internal affirmation and existential acceptance. The task becomes finding profound fulfillment within the repetitive rhythms of life itself, rather than seeking endless novelty outside it. Yet embracing eternal recurrence isn't about extinguishing the human desire for growth or exploration. Rather, Nietzsche asks us to redefine these desires. Growth becomes less about moving toward an uncertain future and more about cultivating internal depth, emotional resilience, and genuine wisdom within an eternally repeating existence. Exploration no longer relies solely upon external novelty. Instead, it involves rediscovering infinite significance within familiar moments, interactions, and emotions. Consider again the idea of a repeating musical melody. The notes, rhythm, and harmony remain identical each time they play. But each repetition reveals subtle nuances, emotional textures, and hidden depths previously unnoticed. Instead of feeling monotonous or meaningless, the melody becomes richer, more emotionally resonant with each revisit. Similarly, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence proposes life itself as this repeating melody, fixed externally, yet infinitely rich internally, forever revealing new emotional dimensions and existential insights. In this way, meaning transforms profoundly. Life no longer depends solely upon external accomplishments, linear progression, or novelty. Instead, significance arises directly from conscious, internal engagement with every moment. Each interaction, experience, or emotion carries infinite value precisely because you affirm and re-experience it endlessly. External repetition doesn't diminish internal depth. It magnifies it, infinitely multiplying opportunities for emotional awareness, gratitude, and compassionate acceptance. However, Nietzsche was deeply aware that infinite repetition challenges our common intuitions about meaning. For many, meaning naturally arises from external progression, setting goals, achieving milestones, discovering new experiences, and growing toward imagined futures. The idea of eternal recurrence profoundly disrupts these familiar intuitions. If nothing ever changes externally, if every event repeats identically without variation, does meaning evaporate? Does life become reduced to mere mechanical repetition, devoid of genuine purpose or fulfillment? Nietzsche acknowledged this concern openly. He recognized eternal recurrence as a profound existential test, perhaps humanity's most significant philosophical and psychological challenge. Rather than diminishing life's meaning, however, Nietzsche believed infinite repetition actually intensified it, making each moment profoundly important. The absence of external novelty shifts the locus of meaning inward, deepening emotional experience, self-awareness, and existential authenticity. Imagine walking through a familiar forest path repeatedly. Externally, everything remains identical: the trees, rocks, sunlight filtering through leaves. Yet internally, your emotional experience and personal interpretation can shift dramatically each time. One day, the forest might symbolize comfort and serenity; another day, quiet melancholy or nostalgia. Infinite repetition doesn't restrict internal experiences, it expands and deepens them. Similarly, eternal recurrence proposes that life's true significance emerges precisely through internal reflection, emotional resonance, and existential engagement, rather than external change or novelty. Still, Nietzsche understood human nature well enough to recognize the potential for existential anxiety within eternal recurrence. The natural human desire for novelty, progression, and external purpose can feel stifled by infinite repetition. Nietzsche openly confronts this tension, inviting us to question deeply: can humanity genuinely find fulfillment and purpose solely within internal experiences, divorced entirely from external novelty or linear progress? Answering this question requires honesty and emotional courage. The comfort and familiarity provided by infinite repetition can initially seem reassuring, offering stability and existential certainty. But paradoxically, too much familiarity might eventually lead to emotional dissatisfaction, restlessness, or even despair. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence doesn't attempt to resolve this tension, it embraces it. The paradox itself becomes an invitation toward deeper existential awareness, emotional maturity, and personal growth. This existential maturity involves shifting away from purely external measures of meaning. Rather than judging life primarily through external achievements or novel experiences, you learn to value internal qualities such as emotional authenticity, gratitude, presence, and compassionate acceptance. External repetition becomes less emotionally threatening once you recognize internal opportunities for profound emotional depth and existential fulfillment hidden within every repeating moment. Nietzsche believed the existential challenge of eternal recurrence offered a remarkable chance for personal transformation. Confronted by infinite repetition, you're forced to confront life's essential nature without illusion or evasion. It pushes you toward emotional honesty, compelling you to genuinely consider how deeply and sincerely you embrace your existence. This honesty can lead to profound emotional growth, self-understanding, and existential maturity. Consider once again Nietzsche's concept of amor fati, the unconditional love and affirmation of one's fate. Amor fati encourages complete acceptance of existence exactly as it is, without resistance, regret, or desire for alteration. Each moment, precisely because it recurs infinitely, becomes worthy of love and affirmation. Nietzsche recognized amor fati as the ultimate existential attitude, a profound emotional and philosophical stance toward life itself. Through amor fati, meaning no longer relies solely on external accomplishments or linear progression. Instead, meaning arises from unconditional self-acceptance and genuine affirmation of existence. Life gains infinite significance simply because it happens exactly as it does, each event, relationship, choice, and emotion embraced fully and sincerely. But amor fati isn't easy. The emotional courage required to affirm existence fully, particularly its difficult or painful aspects, cannot be overstated. Nietzsche understood that amor fati represented an existential ideal rather than an immediate expectation. Achieving this level of genuine acceptance and affirmation is a lifelong journey, demanding continuous emotional growth, self-awareness, and compassionate understanding. Eternal recurrence provides precisely this lifelong opportunity for growth. Each revisit to familiar moments, whether joyful or painful, invites deeper emotional exploration. You continuously uncover hidden insights, new perspectives, and emotional nuances previously unnoticed. Over time, what initially seemed like endless repetition becomes infinite opportunity for profound internal transformation. Imagine yourself reading a beloved book repeatedly throughout your life. Each reading reveals layers of meaning previously overlooked. Passages that once seemed minor gradually gain significance. Characters reveal new emotional depths. Themes resonate more deeply with each revisit. Infinite repetition transforms a simple story into an infinite reservoir of emotional insight, personal reflection, and existential meaning. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence suggests life itself holds the same potential. Infinite repetition, rather than eroding meaning, actually magnifies it. External events might remain identical, but internal experiences continually deepen and expand. Your emotional relationship with existence itself continuously evolves, revealing infinite opportunities for greater understanding, compassion, and existential fulfillment. His paradox thus offers a profound insight into the true nature of meaning itself. Meaning doesn't depend solely upon external progression or constant novelty. Instead, genuine existential meaning arises precisely through continuous internal engagement, emotional authenticity, and compassionate acceptance of existence exactly as it unfolds. Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence didn't emerge from nowhere. It was partly a response to the pessimistic philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer viewed existence through a profoundly pessimistic lens, perceiving life as inherently filled with suffering, dissatisfaction, and perpetual struggle. To Schopenhauer, human desires are never fully satisfied. As soon as one desire is fulfilled, another inevitably arises, continuing an endless cycle of longing and frustration. Imagine life, in Schopenhauer's view, as a perpetual chase. You continually pursue desires, believing happiness awaits fulfillment. But each desire satisfied quickly fades, replaced by new desires, new cravings. Contentment becomes elusive, always just out of reach. To Schopenhauer, existence itself was defined primarily by this restless dissatisfaction, a constant state of inattention, longing, and inevitable suffering. Imagine Schopenhauer's pessimism intensified infinitely through Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. If life, as Schopenhauer believed, is inherently filled with dissatisfaction and struggle, then the prospect of eternal repetition would become the ultimate nightmare. Infinite recurrence would mean repeating struggles, pains, frustrations, and unfulfilled desires endlessly. It would magnify human suffering, making existence itself seem unbearable, eternally oppressive, and utterly hopeless. Yet, Nietzsche saw eternal recurrence differently. Rather than intensifying pessimism, he believed infinite recurrence provided the ultimate test of existential courage and affirmation. For Nietzsche, recurrence wasn't designed to amplify despair, it was intended to inspire radical emotional transformation. Faced with infinite repetition, individuals must either sink into hopelessness or rise courageously, embracing existence fully, despite its inevitable challenges and sorrows. Nietzsche directly challenged Schopenhauer's conclusion that life is fundamentally miserable. Instead, Nietzsche proposed that suffering, dissatisfaction, and struggle were not necessarily enemies to be eliminated or avoided, but integral parts of life that could be affirmed and even embraced. Rather than fleeing from life's inherent difficulties, Nietzsche encouraged active engagement, existential bravery, and emotional resilience in the face of inevitable struggle. Nietzsche believed that genuinely affirming existence required accepting and even loving all aspects of life, not selectively embracing only pleasant experiences but fully affirming struggles, pains, and dissatisfactions as meaningful components of existence itself. Eternal recurrence thus directly confronts Schopenhauer's pessimism, offering a radically different emotional and philosophical stance toward life's inherent challenges. Consider again Schopenhauer's image of desire as an endless, unsatisfiable cycle. Rather than viewing desire negatively as perpetual frustration, Nietzsche proposed seeing desire as life's creative force, a source of motivation, vitality, and existential energy. Human desires, ambitions, and longings give life emotional richness, depth, and purpose, even if they remain partially unfulfilled. Rather than seeking permanent escape from dissatisfaction, Nietzsche encourages affirming desire itself as meaningful, vibrant, and infinitely significant. Eternal recurrence radically transforms how we interpret human struggle and dissatisfaction. Nietzsche suggests struggle isn't merely painful, it is essential to meaningful existence. Life's inherent challenges provide opportunities for emotional growth, personal development, and existential authenticity. Rather than defining life negatively through perpetual dissatisfaction, Nietzsche encourages actively embracing struggle as profoundly meaningful and inherently valuable. Imagine, for example, a challenging climb up a mountain. Each step feels difficult, perhaps even painful. Progress may seem slow or arduous, yet the climb itself, its struggles, difficulties, and demands, holds intrinsic meaning. Reaching the summit provides satisfaction precisely because the journey was difficult. Nietzsche proposes viewing life itself similarly. Struggles and hardships aren't simply negative experiences to avoid but essential parts of meaningful existence, infinitely significant precisely because of their recurrence. Nietzsche understood that embracing struggle and dissatisfaction as meaningful isn't easy. It requires immense emotional strength and existential courage. Yet, this affirmation offers profound emotional liberation. Rather than constantly seeking escape or relief from inevitable challenges, you actively engage life as it unfolds, courageously embracing every moment, joyful or painful alike, precisely because each moment infinitely recurs. Thus, eternal recurrence challenges Schopenhauer's pessimism directly by redefining how we interpret human experiences. Rather than viewing struggles or unmet desires negatively, Nietzsche proposes viewing them as essential components of meaningful existence. Suffering, disappointment, and frustration aren't inherently negative. They're integral parts of a life fully lived, infinitely significant precisely because they recur endlessly. Nietzsche believes emotional resilience emerges precisely through embracing life's inherent difficulties rather than avoiding or suppressing them. Each struggle, when affirmed courageously, deepens emotional strength, maturity, and existential authenticity. Life gains profound meaning through actively engaging difficulties rather than passively avoiding them. Ultimately, Nietzsche's eternal recurrence offers an empowering alternative to Schopenhauer's pessimistic worldview. Rather than life being defined by perpetual suffering or dissatisfaction, eternal recurrence provides the emotional and philosophical foundation for profound existential affirmation. Life, in Nietzsche's vision, becomes infinitely meaningful precisely because it eternally repeats, demanding courageous emotional engagement rather than passive resignation. This existential perspective deeply transforms how we approach everyday life. Ordinary moments, conversations, relationships, daily tasks, gain infinite significance because they recur endlessly. Instead of viewing struggles or dissatisfactions as proof of life's futility, you recognize them as integral components of meaningful existence. Daily experiences become opportunities for deeper emotional presence, compassion, and existential awareness. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence finds powerful resonance with another influential existential image, the myth of Sisyphus. According to Greek mythology, Sisyphus was condemned by the gods to eternally push a heavy stone up a steep mountain. Just as he reached the summit, the stone rolled back down, forcing him to repeat this arduous task endlessly. At first glance, Sisyphus' punishment symbolizes ultimate futility, repetitive, meaningless labor with no possibility of completion or success. But Albert Camus, the French philosopher who famously explored this myth, saw something else entirely within Sisyphus' eternal struggle. Camus believed Sisyphus represented the human condition itself, capturing humanity's persistent search for meaning despite life's inherent absurdity. Rather than viewing Sisyphus' fate merely as punishment, Camus imagined him defiantly embracing his eternal task, finding purpose precisely through persistent effort and unwavering determination, even in the absence of traditional success. This interpretation aligns powerfully with Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. Both concepts emphasize existence repeating infinitely without ultimate escape or definitive resolution. Sisyphus eternally pushes his stone uphill. Each moment of effort recurs endlessly, identical and unchanged. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence similarly suggests every moment of our lives repeats exactly as it occurs, joys, struggles, successes, and failures endlessly returning without ultimate completion or escape. Yet both Camus and Nietzsche invite a radical existential shift, finding joy and purpose precisely within repetitive, seemingly futile experiences. Rather than viewing life negatively because of its endless repetition, both philosophers encourage affirming existence itself as inherently meaningful. Meaning doesn't depend upon ultimate success, external validation, or definitive completion. Rather, it arises directly from the persistent effort, emotional presence, and existential determination displayed precisely through repetitive struggle. Consider your own daily life as a subtle form of Sisyphus' task. You rise each morning to complete tasks you've performed repeatedly, perhaps at work, at home, or within relationships. Initially, this repetition might seem tiresome, monotonous, or even meaningless. Yet each repeated effort provides opportunities for deeper engagement, emotional presence, and existential affirmation. Your daily tasks might never reach definitive completion or permanent success, like Sisyphus' stone, but meaning arises directly from how sincerely and wholeheartedly you engage them. Imagine Sisyphus genuinely embracing his eternal task, not merely enduring it, but deeply accepting and even affirming it. With each repeated push up the mountain, he finds renewed strength, emotional resilience, and existential authenticity. Rather than resisting his fate or wishing for escape, he courageously accepts his existence exactly as it unfolds. This radical affirmation transforms futility into purpose, repetition into meaningful experience, struggle into genuine joy. Similarly, Nietzsche encourages embracing eternal recurrence not merely passively or resignedly, but actively and courageously. Life, even if endlessly repeating, gains infinite significance precisely because you affirm it fully, wholeheartedly, and courageously. Rather than defining existence negatively through repetition or perceived futility, Nietzsche and Camus both invite actively engaging life's inherent complexities, finding joy precisely within persistent effort, emotional authenticity, and existential bravery. Camus famously concluded that one must imagine Sisyphus happy. This simple yet powerful statement encapsulates a profound existential insight. Sisyphus' happiness arises not from achieving an ultimate goal, since the stone always rolls back down, but from deeply accepting and affirming his eternal task. By embracing the futility itself, he creates personal meaning and authentic happiness. His satisfaction is not diminished by repetition, it emerges directly from his acceptance of it. Applying this insight to your personal experience can be transformative. Life is filled with repetitive tasks, routines, and responsibilities. You might initially perceive these routines negatively, seeing them as monotonous or lacking genuine purpose. But Nietzsche and Camus both suggest a profound existential shift, embracing repetition itself as inherently meaningful. Rather than defining life's purpose solely through external outcomes or accomplishments, you find significance within persistent effort, emotional authenticity, and courageous acceptance of daily experiences precisely because they recur endlessly. Imagine a musician practicing the same piece repeatedly. Initially, the repetition might feel tedious or frustrating, but through persistence and emotional engagement, each repetition deepens skill, emotional connection, and artistic authenticity. The music's beauty isn't diminished by repetition, it emerges and deepens precisely through it. Life itself holds similar potential. Rather than diminishing meaning, repetition offers profound opportunities for deeper emotional presence, personal growth, and existential authenticity. Nietzsche acknowledges the psychological challenge inherent in fully embracing eternal recurrence or Sisyphus' infinite struggle. Human beings naturally desire novelty, progress, and definitive achievements. Accepting repetition or apparent futility requires emotional courage, deliberate existential effort, and ongoing internal work. But Nietzsche believed this existential bravery ultimately liberates us from constant anxiety about external outcomes or future uncertainties. Genuine emotional freedom arises precisely through unconditional acceptance and sincere affirmation of life's infinite recurrence. Both philosophers thus present a powerful challenge and invitation. Can you genuinely embrace your existence, even repetitive or seemingly futile aspects, as infinitely meaningful? Can you shift your emotional relationship to repetition itself, discovering deep significance precisely within persistent effort, emotional authenticity, and existential courage? Nietzsche and Camus both affirm the existential possibility of doing exactly this. Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence and Camus' myth of Sisyphus both profoundly challenge traditional notions of success, achievement, and happiness. Conventional perspectives often measure life's worth primarily through external results, achieving goals, completing tasks, or reaching definitive milestones. Life becomes meaningful only when certain conditions or outcomes are met, leaving people restless, anxious, or dissatisfied when these expectations aren't fulfilled. Consider carefully the true magnitude of infinite recurrence. Every moment you've lived, every joy, pain, triumph, or struggle, would repeat infinitely, eternally unchanged. The emotional significance of this idea is difficult to fully grasp. Moments initially perceived as trivial or fleeting suddenly gain infinite importance precisely because they recur endlessly. Life's inherent emotional complexity magnifies dramatically, each instant becoming eternally significant and emotionally charged. This realization can initially feel unbearable. Human psychology often seeks emotional escape, closure, or resolution, particularly regarding difficult experiences or memories. Infinite recurrence removes any possibility of true emotional escape. You must directly face every moment, every decision, every emotion repeatedly, without alteration. This existential realization can feel profoundly overwhelming, psychologically exhausting, even terrifying. Nietzsche openly acknowledges this emotional weight as perhaps the greatest existential challenge posed by eternal recurrence. Yet Nietzsche believed sincerely confronting infinity's emotional weight ultimately offered immense opportunities for personal transformation. Rather than avoiding or emotionally retreating from life's infinite repetition, Nietzsche encourages courageous acceptance and deliberate internal affirmation. Facing infinity directly inspires profound emotional resilience, existential maturity, and genuine internal strength. Imagine standing before an endless ocean, vast, overwhelming, infinite. Initially, the sheer immensity might feel emotionally daunting, even frightening. But by courageously acknowledging its vastness and fully accepting it, emotional intimidation gradually transforms into quiet strength, profound appreciation, and sincere emotional courage. The challenge of infinite recurrence raises an essential existential question. Can the human psyche truly withstand the immense emotional weight of infinity? For many people, meaning in life emerges from experiencing events as temporary, fleeting, and unique. Joyful experiences become precious precisely because they feel temporary and rare, while difficult experiences become bearable because they eventually pass. Infinite recurrence, however, disrupts this psychological framework entirely. Moments no longer pass away into memory. Instead, they eternally return, identical and unchanged, repeatedly confronting us with their emotional intensity. Nietzsche recognized that embracing infinite repetition requires a complete redefinition of our emotional relationship to existence itself. Temporary events, once appreciated precisely because of their rarity, become infinitely significant, eternally affirmed. Even painful moments, previously endured only because of their eventual passing, become permanent fixtures of infinite recurrence. The human psyche must therefore cultivate immense emotional courage, resilience, and genuine existential bravery to confront life's infinite repetition without psychological breakdown or emotional resignation. Imagine yourself listening to a profoundly moving piece of music. Its emotional power arises partly from knowing the music eventually ends. It becomes precious precisely through its temporary, fleeting nature. Now imagine this piece repeating endlessly, never concluding, infinitely repeating its emotional intensity. Initially, this infinite repetition might feel emotionally overwhelming or psychologically exhausting. But through deliberate, courageous emotional acceptance, repeated exposure gradually transforms into deeper appreciation, emotional resilience, and genuine existential strength. Nietzsche proposes similarly courageous emotional engagement with life itself. Moments that initially seem emotionally unbearable or overwhelming, precisely because they repeat infinitely, slowly transform into profound opportunities for deeper self-awareness, emotional maturity, and existential affirmation. Genuine emotional liberation emerges not through escaping difficult emotions, but through courageously affirming their infinite recurrence. Nietzsche understood clearly that this emotional transformation wasn't easy or immediate. Infinite recurrence demands continuous internal effort, ongoing psychological maturity, and deliberate emotional courage. Genuine existential strength emerges slowly, through repeatedly confronting life's infinite complexity and sincerely affirming its emotional intensity, precisely because it eternally repeats. This courageous embrace of infinity significantly alters our perception of emotional experiences. In everyday life, emotional responses often feel manageable precisely because they seem temporary. Joys are cherished for their fleeting beauty, while sorrows are tolerated because they're expected to fade with time. Infinite recurrence transforms this perspective entirely, confronting us with the emotional permanence of every experience. Joys eternally recur, endlessly reaffirming life's beauty. Sorrows similarly recur, repeatedly challenging our emotional resilience. Imagine, in the stillness of thought, a strange machine before you, a simple, glowing button surrounded by silence. A voice, calm and clear, tells you, if you press this button, your entire life will begin again. Every moment you've lived, every joy, sorrow, breath, thought, and choice, will happen again exactly as it did. And then again, and again, forever. You stand there, aware that pressing the button doesn't change your past, it seals it. Every event you've experienced will become your eternity. Would you press it? This is the essence of Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, distilled into a single choice. No intellectual abstraction, no metaphor, just the question. Can you affirm your entire life, as it is, without change, forever? Can you love not only your triumphs but also your missteps, not only your joys but your heartbreaks, your ordinary days, your overlooked hours? If offered the chance to live it all again, identically, infinitely, would you choose to? This question is not meant to be answered quickly. It is not designed to be comfortable. Nietzsche didn't offer eternal recurrence as a solution, but as a mirror. It reflects back your relationship with your own existence. Most people imagine what they would change in their lives, the regrets they would undo, the opportunities they'd seize. Eternal recurrence allows for no revision. It asks, is your life, as it has unfolded, something you would willingly embrace again, and again, for all eternity? What makes this thought experiment so powerful is its moral and emotional weight. It bypasses abstract discussions about fate, free will, or time and instead puts you face to face with yourself. Would you say yes to your life, not a version of it, but this one, with all its flaws, failures, and beauty? Nietzsche believed that the answer to this question reveals the quality of one's inner relationship with life. If the thought of eternal repetition fills you with horror, if you would recoil from the idea of living your life again exactly as it is, then perhaps there are parts of your life you have not truly accepted, or perhaps never truly lived. But if you can press the button, if you can say yes to it all, then you have achieved what Nietzsche called the highest formula of affirmation. This button, this imaginary mechanism of eternity, isn't a machine built by gods or philosophers. It is your conscience. It is the question that waits silently behind your daily actions, behind your habits, behind your memories. And to answer it, to approach it with honesty, is to begin living not in fear or regret, but in affirmation. This imagined button does more than challenge your memories. It shifts how you live from this moment onward. Once you've looked honestly at the idea of living your life again forever, the decisions you make, the words you say, even the thoughts you permit yourself to dwell on begin to take on a new weight. Suddenly, nothing is trivial. Nothing is forgettable. Every moment matters, because every moment, in this framework, will return again. And again, and again. The weight of eternity is not meant to crush you, it's meant to sharpen your focus. It turns life from a sequence of forgettable events into a mosaic of eternal choices. Each glance, each breath, each word has eternal resonance when viewed through Nietzsche's lens. Even boredom, even repetition itself, becomes sacred. The mundane becomes meaningful, simply because it exists, and because you are here to live it. Some might recoil from this idea. After all, life is filled with pain, loss, injustice, randomness. Why would anyone want to say yes to suffering, let alone to eternal suffering? Nietzsche's answer lies not in denying suffering, but in refusing to be broken by it. He believed that the deepest form of strength comes not from escaping pain, but from incorporating it into your affirmation. To say yes to life is to say yes to all of it. And in that yes, in that full-blooded embrace of existence, something remarkable happens. You are no longer the victim of fate. You become its equal. You no longer endure your story, you own it. So, would you press the button? Not because your life is perfect, not because you would want no other, but because you've learned to say yes to the life that is yours, to its poetry, its scars, its silence, and its music. To everything, without exception, without edits. And if you would not press it, that too is part of the work. Nietzsche doesn't judge you for hesitating, but he challenges you to ask why. What still feels unworthy of eternity? What part of your life still needs healing, understanding, or honest confrontation? The button waits, the mirror remains. The question doesn't go away, it simply deepens, following you into your next thought, your next breath, your next choice. Perhaps the most profound gift of this thought experiment is not the pressure to answer perfectly, but the permission it grants to live more fully. To stop postponing your aliveness. To stop outsourcing your meaning to some future moment that may never arrive. If you hesitate to press the button, it doesn't mean your life has failed. It means you've located the places where your soul is still waiting, where truth has yet to be spoken, where forgiveness has yet to bloom, where joy still stands at the threshold, waiting to be let in. This isn't about fixing your past, it's about waking up to your present. The repetition of life doesn't require you to become flawless. It invites you to become whole. Nietzsche understood that pressing the button isn't a reward for those who've mastered life. It's a call to those who are still learning to embrace it. And that means all of us. He believed that this question, when asked sincerely, doesn't lead to despair, it leads to transformation. Not overnight, not all at once, but gradually, steadily, with each moment you meet without resistance, each experience you begin to love without condition. It's a quiet revolution, and it begins by living as though you've already pressed the button. That means listening more closely to your own voice, paying attention to the small choices, the tone you use with someone you love, the pause before you react, the presence you bring to a simple meal. It means choosing not what you think will look best in retrospect, but what you can live with forever. Even your mistakes, especially your mistakes, take on a different weight when viewed through the lens of eternity. If you're going to live them again and again, what would it take to forgive yourself now? What would it take to look at the person you were in those moments, not with judgment, but with understanding? This is where eternal recurrence becomes not a burden, but a gift. It teaches you to stop waiting for permission to love your life. It invites you to step into the eternal present, where everything that has happened and everything that will happen collapses into the moment you're living right now. And maybe that's the real secret. The button doesn't exist in some distant philosophical future. It's always within reach, hidden in every choice, every breath, every word you speak. Pressing it is not a single act, but a way of living. A way of remembering that this moment, just as it is, could be the one you live forever. So live it well, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but with full presence, with deep care, with enough courage to say, yes, again, and again, and again, not because you must, but because you choose to. And with that, rest now in peace, not the silence of avoidance, but the deep stillness of acceptance. The kind of peace that comes when you stop running from your life, and instead, open your arms wide to it, saying, this. I would live again, forever.